Welcome to Midlife Matters. I'm Marie, and each week I'm joined by my friends Julie and Mindy to talk about all the topics keeping women in the middle years up at night. We all deal with the tyranny of busyness. How do we tame this beast? Join us as we discuss strategies for slowing down and including more of the important things in life. Let's get started. Listeners, the new year is upon us, and as one does in January, we're starting to examine how we're spending our time and resources and how we might want to make adjustments. And I saw an article in Real Simple magazine last September that seems really relevant to this time of year. It was called How to Be Less Busy, and I'm excited to discuss this with Julie and Mindy today. You guys, what did you think about when you read this article?
I was too busy to read the article for a while.
That's true. Full disclosure, Mindy read it before we started recording.
Yes. And it was excellent. And I'm very excited to talk about it.
Yeah, it had a lot of good things to make you think about why you do what you do. And that's my theme this year. It's why I do what I do. So
Right. And, so many people have like new list making techniques, new calendars, new tools to keep them on track. And so this is going to particularly zoom in on the to-do list. Some people love them, some people hate them, but just that's like one of the ways that they really talk about that we beat ourselves up about being so busy. But right away in the first blurb to get you interested in reading the article, it says, happiness doesn't always come from a finished to-do list. And right away I'm like, I don't know. Does it or does it not? What do you guys think?
Well, I do. I'm a list maker and I do like to see it finished. I don't know about like deep happiness coming from it, but it is a very fulfilling, I don't know. It kind of brings some rest to my mind when I see that it's done.
I think there are big things and little things on the to-do list. The longer you have kept a to-do list, the more you realize it's never done. Actually,
right.
I put menial things on there, things I just don't want to forget, and actual errands are big things that have to get done. So it's never going to be done.
No,
but I do make lists, and I do still put things on my list if I do something extra to mark it off, so I feel good about myself.
Right. Well, that statement that happiness doesn't always come with a finished to-do list, it seems really simple on the surface, but I was thinking about how our culture as a whole really kind of does tell us that. Like I was thinking about how some people actually put things that they've already done on the list so that they can cross them out so that they'll feel better about themselves. I think I've heard Julie maybe mention that before.
Well, I make lists because I need to get it out of my head so that they're not spinning around and I'm constantly trying to not forget something. So if it's on paper, I'm not going to forget it. And so then if I have done it, but I hadn't written it down, I do write it down because I know that I'll come back and say, have I done that? So
Right.
I do like to have that visual of all that needs to be done.
Okay.
Right.
But you're right. I do think our culture says do more, do it faster. That's the message that we're fed.
Yeah. And I also know that some people really feel bad like about their day. Like maybe their day really was kind of worthless or they didn't get much done at all if they haven't done things that they had put on their to-do list. Or some people won't even make a to-do list because they know that they're going to have that negative feeling. I think because if we don't have everything crossed off at the end of the day, it's just built-in negative feedback to us. Do you guys feel that way when you look at your list, or do you just roll it over the next day and don't feel bad about it?
Yeah, I just roll mine over. It's just an ongoing thing. I know I'm not going to get it all done that day. It's just getting it out of my head.
Okay.
Yeah.
The place that it goes. So I use the note on my phone. And so the things for that day that are by time are at the very top. The rolling list is down through the whole thing. And, I sometimes I have to scroll quite a bit to get to the end. I'm like, okay, I need to clean this up, and I realize I've put prepare for podcast on my to-do list 4 times. I just missed it.
Read the busy article.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I was thinking about that. I'm one of those people who writes a to-do list to organize my thoughts like you, Julie, and then I tend to never look at it again. At first, I think I remember what's on it, so I don't bother looking. And then because I know I've gotten off track, I don't want to look because there's going to be things that I don't have time to accomplish. And I know I'm going to feel bad. And then I really don't want to look because I know there's going to be things I didn't do. And then I'll be depressed that, oh, I didn't do those. So it's kind of like I make a to-do list and then I bury my head in the sand.
Right.
I keep mine on my counter on an actual piece of paper. And every time I walk by, I'm looking, okay, now what's still on there? And I do mark it off as I go. And it's just, it's constantly there in front of me.
But I do feel like society cheers a long to-do list. Like they don't want to see just like 2 items. Like a long to-do list is something that people could even take a picture of and like post to Instagram with like 20 things checked off or something. I feel like that is something that society cheers. And like if you don't have something on your agenda for the day, what does that mean? Because I don't think that means that people are just sitting in a chair staring at the wall.
Right. I think busyness is almost a virtue these days.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like something to be proud of. Like I have more to do than you. And
Yes.
But
yes.
Don't you feel like COVID taught us all how busy we were and how exhausted we all were? It was this one national reset button that kind of really was a litmus test for the things that you were doing, the people that you were talking to, the activities that you were doing. Because when it all stopped, people really struggled with that. And now I do feel like it's hard to get back to that pace of life that we had even before COVID hit. And so, it's some people don't even want to go back to work. You know, they just want to keep that schedule at home. And some people are kind of tired of, doing all the activities that they were doing before, that we're still trying to figure out what is the balance, really.
Yeah, I can see that. I also know that we as humans have really short memories. So like we all said, oh, we're never going to go back to being so busy. And then as soon as you can, it creeps back in really quickly.
Right.
You're right.
Yeah. So yeah, I can see both ways. I definitely know that, a lot of us appreciated slowing down, but then as soon as things speed up, and sometimes it's not even that you personally desire to speed up, but if you have kids in your house and all their activities have gone back to normal, or like you said, your job has started and all that's gone back to normal, it's kind of out of your control. The treadmill has started and you're on it and you have to try and keep up. Don't fall flat. But anyways, this article talked about a book that I had never heard of before, The Phantom Toll Booth, and it's by Norton Juster. And anyways, apparently it's a children's book because this author said that she read it a lot as a child, and one of the characters that stuck out in her mind was a demon of petty tasks and worthless jobs, an ogre of wasted effort and monster of habit. And apparently in the story, he had the other characters doing endless, pointless activities, such as moving individual grains of sand with tweezers, like just over and over again, just terribly mundane, trivial activities. And in the book, it says, if you only do the easy and useless jobs, you'll never have to worry about the important ones, which are so difficult. You won't have the time, for there's always something to do to keep you from what you really should be doing. And that quote really stuck out to me. Did that resonate with you guys?
Yeah, it did. Actually, that book I have not read, but in my children's lit book club, we're going to read it in March. So I'm excited about getting into that book. But it also made me think of the Screw Tape Letters, where the demon, who is being trained in tempting humans, one of his tactics is distractions, getting people to just focus on trivial, meaningless things. And I thought, that is a huge distraction. I can relate to using trivial tasks to stay busy, kind of as a way to avoid things that I don't want to do. And I guess that's kind of like a form of procrastination. It's a I don't know, maybe a more justified form of procrastination. Like, oh, I'm so busy, I can't get to that. But I thought, like if I say I'm just too busy to go to the doctor, I'm just too busy to go to the dentist, that's really what I'm saying is that's not a priority.
Right.
Like I'm not too busy to go do those things.
Or you might be really busy, but maybe you need to get rid of something trivial to free up some time.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It's just that I need to make that the priority because, like Mindy said earlier, the trivial things will never go away. Those things will always be on the list.
Mm-hmm.
That list will never get done. So it's about changing what comes first on the list,
right.
Or second or whatever. So,
well, and this is why, we've all talked about suffering for 15 minutes, doing those things that are hard to do. But even in the discussion, we're talking about things that we still have to do. Mm-hmm. So it's just the priorities of what we have to do versus the menial tasks that are never ending. And I remember reading a book one time, and it was a little picture of time management, but it was also a picture of having time with the Lord in the morning. And it talked about, you have a glass, which is your time for the day. And you had large rocks, medium rocks, and small gravel. Mm-hmm. If you put the small gravel in first, you put the medium rocks in first, the big rocks won't fit. And then you pour water in. Mm-hmm. So it's it's all this stuff. Well, you find that you have to put the large rocks in first.
Yeah.
Then you put the medium rocks. Then you put the small gravel, and you can pour water in, and it all fits.
And so it's around that.
Yeah, I visualize that when I think about the day, and even teaching my teenagers, I do. I say you get the work done first, and then you play.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. What are some of the things that you guys find yourself doing that are trivial to procrastinate, or that are trivial and then you're not doing the important thing? Are there anything, I was thinking cleaning. Maybe I really need to make dinner or meal plan, or even make out a grocery list, which would be hugely helpful, place an Instacart order. And instead I'm cleaning the kitchen, deep cleaning the sink. Yeah, everything's clean, but we don't have any food.
Yeah, like straightening up the pantry, dusting behind something, rearranging. That's so much more fun than making a grocery list.
Yes, yes. I'll say sometimes good things can really be the enemy, of what you're supposed to be doing. And so this can come in any form in my life. I could sit and have a quiet time too long because I don't want to face the day. Mm-hmm. Or I could go to the grocery store, but not have thought about the list beforehand. And I end up getting, what I want to eat, not what we really need to eat, and what would feed a family for dinner. And I'm like, oh, well, I have popcorn and cereal. So that's nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, Mindy, something you said earlier made me think this is another area we need to discuss, because you said get the work done and then play.
Yes.
But something I took out of this article, and I know you were using that analogy to talk about the big things going first, but I think one of the points of this article was that the work things might never end and you would never get to the play.
Right.
I was wondering if somebody was going to comment on that.
Well, we're gonna talk about that later about how we never will. But we definitely need to mention that up front. I did notice it, but then I thought, well, we'll come around to it.
Okay.
But listeners, we are saying that your work is not going to end. So okay. I was noticing though, and I don't know if you guys feel this way, but I was feeling like if you are a mom, I will say that sometimes I feel like a lot of the things I do to take care of kids and a home are trivium. And I never even heard of this word before this article, but I guess you could just put in trivial, but I actually like the word trivium. I feel like they are trivium, like folding the same clothing, cleaning the kitchen, making meals, grocery shopping, driving to appointments, cleaning the toilet. I feel like you do those things over and over again, and they can feel trivial after a while. And yet if they aren't being done, then your whole house and home falls apart. I guess I was just thinking that they are trivium, but hopefully they add up to something important in the end, and you're creating a life and a home and in a way that no one else would for your family. But also maybe just sometimes even necessary work can feel or look to other people on the outside as trivial.
Yeah, because that's where the analogy with the phantom toll booth kind of broke down for me, because they had them moving grains of sand. Well, that is a meaningless task, but I don't know. I don't want to equate doing our kids' laundry, cleaning, cooking meals, driving them places as moving sand. They are meaningful things. I think it's just we can get overwhelmed with them if we're not careful to schedule in some other things too.
Yeah. Like I'm thinking of my daughter with a 2.5-year-old and an almost 1-year-old. And like, how many times a day does she clean up the same toys or wipe down the same table and high chair? And I think that can probably I remember I used to feel like it felt like moving grains of sand. And yet those are important tasks.
Yeah. Mundane, but not trivial. Maybe that's the way to.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'll say along the same topic is something I thought about is if you have been in the workforce or at school and you start to stay home, you realize just how much time you have. And I wrote down a quote from the article, a quote from Cassie Holmes. And she said, happiness is not really about the amount of free time we have. It depends on how you spend whatever time you have. And so I thought about becoming a stay-at-home mom and how difficult it was because you never feel like you're done. There's an endless amount of time that you're suddenly in charge of. And yes, there's certain activities and people and things that, maybe you have a nap time you have to plan around. You think that you're going to have an endless amount of time. You're going to get all this stuff done. All your people are going to feel loved. You're going to have everything done and ready for everybody all the time. Well, you realize really quickly that can be depressing. That transition to staying home can be very depressing because you have to learn how to compartmentalize your day because you're not leaving and changing locations. You're in the same location with the same people. And you have to somehow give yourself structure, which is very difficult to learn how to do. And I remember there was a book written about it, and it's something to the effect of like your business at home kind of deal. Like it's a business, even though you're staying at home, and to treat it like a workplace. And so it just took a lot of years for me to figure out how to schedule work, how to schedule errands, how to schedule people, how to be flexible, but get things done. But the people, it's just like this constant balancing act. Because I even felt like I wrote this down, crazy days lead to lazy days. Like, there would be these highs and lows, and it just the schedule constantly changes.
Yeah. And it's all necessary. It's like you can't say, well, I'm not doing trivial things anymore because then your house will fall apart. I mean, dishes have to be washed, trash has to be taken out, laundry has to be done. And I think just that quote that you use, Mindy, is to remember that if we let those things consume all of our time, we'll never get to the things that we want to do. And that's something I learned to do just a few years ago, was to put the things I want to do on my to-do list. Like I've got do laundry, do these returns, make a grocery list, go to the doctor, and then I've got read a book. I mean, I have to write down, read this book, or watercolor for an hour, or, go on a hike. Like those seem silly to write on a to-do list, but if I don't, I won't ever get to them.
Yes, that's a great example, Julie.
Yeah. Another great quote from the article was, time, not money, is the most precious resource. And I think that the older you get, the more you realize this is true. Like when you're young and you have all the time in the world, you want to make tons of money and you don't really think about the time. And then the older you get, you're like, I can live on less. I really just want more time. Did that stick out to you guys?
Well, yeah, the past 2 years have taught me that. She said, our to-do list will never end, but our brief lives on earth will. And I thought, oh, wow, like we've definitely realized that in the last 2 years, which has helped, change our priorities a lot. My days look a lot different now than they used to.
Yes.
Yeah, I definitely thought about you and John when I read that. All right, well, let's talk about taming the terrible trivium. And I just love that word. So trivium is the new word for the day. I hope I'm using it right. But anyways, they want us to examine the root of our devotion to productivity. And of course, they immediately start out on your family of origin, like it's all your parents' fault if you feel this pressure.
I know.
Great.
And I'm like, well, seriously, that means my kids will be blaming me someday.
Exactly. That's what I think too.
Let me just say right up front, it's nobody's parents' fault. It's way more about society, I think, than parents necessarily.
Yes, I do agree.
But what did you guys go to when they asked you to examine the root of your devotion?
I just thought about the questions they ask, like, do you feel guilty about free time? Do you feel guilty about taking breaks or breaks for wimps? I had to say no to all of those. Like, I have no problem sitting down in the middle of the day, reading a book, starting a craft, going on a hike, and the sink is full of dishes and the laundry's piling up. I have no problem with that.
Well, has that always been the case though, Julie? Like even when you were younger?
It's probably changed some as I've gotten older, but yeah, I've just not ever had a hard time with leisure time.
Well, because I'm thinking like you went to pharmacy school, which most people on the surface would say, okay, that's a person with a pretty strong drive. Like you had to work hard.
I think I'm a highly, highly productive person.
Okay.
I get a lot done.
Okay.
But I'm just saying that it doesn't bother me. Leisure time does not make me feel guilty at all.
Okay. That's a good distinction.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
How about you, Mindy? You're saying that you do not feel guilty either.
I don't feel guilty with it. In fact, my mind went to, I actually had to invoke some to-do lists and productivity more into my life because I feel like even growing up, it was, if that stresses you too much, don't do it. You know, was kind of what I was hearing. And so ironically, I went to this in my mind, laziness can be just as harmful as too much productivity. And what I wrote down when I really pondered it was that laziness can really be a cousin of apathy, and apathy can be the child of depression.
Okay.
So
that's deep, Mindy.
I know.
Break that down for me. Break that down.
You might need to say that again.
Okay, let me say it again because I really did ponder this for a while. And I was like, well, I'm actually concerned about, you have to have a balance between laziness and productivity.
Yeah.
They are both extremely harmful, full blown. And so I wrote, laziness can be a cousin of apathy, and apathy can be the child of depression. And so that made sense to me in my mind that there are seasons of my life where, I had no problem sleeping, saying no, but I wasn't healthy.
It's kind of a spiral down.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then there's also times in my life where I didn't know how to say no. And, I was also spiraling in a different way in too much productivity. So there really has to be a rest and a work. Okay. There's a fine line in the rest and the work.
Right. No, that's definitely true. Like they could have an article, not how to be less busy, but maybe how to be more productive if you're struggling with laziness. So either extreme. Yeah. When I thought about those questions that she asked, do you feel guilty about free time? Do you feel like breaks are for wimps? I don't really feel guilty about free time, and I don't feel like breaks are for wimps, but I feel that way around certain people in my household, and my husband won't really mind if I talk about this, but he's a very productive person. If he's not producing, then I don't know what he's doing. Maybe he's watching football, once a week or every couple weeks, and not even the whole game. Like, I don't know. He's always producing. And so in my mind, I feel very guilty around him. Like when he walks by and I'm relaxing, or maybe I'm just finishing up my meal and just enjoying my drink afterwards or whatever, just because I'm not up out of the chair and immediately producing, I feel guilty and it makes me feel bad. Whereas if he's traveling and I'm doing the exact same thing, I don't feel bad.
I so relate with you on
You
this.
do? Okay.
100%. I work very hard while everybody's gone and nobody sees.
Right.
When they come home, I'm like the laziest person in the world. And I'm like, I promise I actually do stuff.
I know.
I worked so hard while you were gone. Bryce in his rest is still working.
That's what I'm saying.
He wants to read something and learn something. I'm like, my brain is done. Like, I don't want to learn anything. I don't want to.
Yes.
Like, I'm watching TV, some kind of fluff, or I'm reading fluff, or,
Yeah.
He's like, let's learn about how the atmosphere.
Right. Don't you think, because we've been talking about the Enneagram a lot lately, this has something to do with that too? Because I just enjoy being productive. Like it's not out of guilt or like keeping up with anybody. That's just what I enjoy. Because people have said, you must have more hours in your day than I do because you get a lot done. How do you do that? And I can't explain it. Like that's what I enjoy doing. I don't like sitting around and doing nothing. Like that's just not.
Well, Steve is an Enneagram 3, and the motto can be, I've read that their motto is work is fun. So that plays right into what you're saying, Julie. Like, work is fun for them.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe you're a 3.
Well, no, it's not necessarily work, but fun is fun. Fun is fun. Or, like learning something, studying something, trying to figure something new out, like those kind of things. Like I just don't want to sit and be idle, and it's not out of guilt or it's kind of out of boredom. I don't want to do that.
Right. Okay. Well, anyways, we've all established that the 3 of us don't mind taking a break. So we'll move on. But listeners, if you mind taking a break, you should maybe look at that as what this article is saying. Like, it's okay. You don't have to think that breaks are for wimps. You don't have to feel guilty about having some free time. One of the questions was, do you need to earn the right to relax? And I think that's a really important question to ask yourself, because I think a lot of people would say, yes, they have to earn the right to relax. And that's even how it's set up in our society. You work and then you earn 2 weeks vacation.
Now, I did think about this when it came to vacations. I have noticed that towards the end of a vacation, I start to feel a little uneasy, like, okay, I have been living the high life a little too long now. I haven't cooked a meal. I haven't made a bed. I haven't done any laundry. And I don't know if it's just that I'm anxious to get back to the rhythms of normal life, or I do feel a little guilty. Like I've used up my earned vacation time now. Like 2 weeks that's the longest I've ever been on a vacation. And I am so ready to get home after that.
Well, there is something to be said for having structure and routine. And Bryce and I have even noticed that on vacation together or at home together, we tend to treat every day about the same, that I don't feel like I can rest until I've done certain things. I really do feel that way. Like you earn your rest. But even every day, if I'm not going anywhere, I'm going to get up and do the exact same things. I'm going to try to pretty much get up at the same time. I'm going to fully get ready, even if nobody's going to see me. But I actually feel human. I actually feel like I'm living by adding these structure to my day. And so even on vacation, like it would be a nightmare for Bryce and I to go and just sit all day long, like at the beach or whatever. Or like we actually have to do something, but that's restful to us to say, oh, let's go hiking and get up early. Oh yeah, that sounds amazing. I'll be more rested doing that than I would be sitting on the couch.
Yeah.
So let's go back and just reiterate that you do not need to earn the right to relax, in case you are one of those people that thinks that. Another thing that she says is to accept that your to-do list will never be done. And this is so hard for me. And I want to share this story. I have 5 kids, and when the last 2 went to kindergarten, I was taking a painting class. And the week that my girls went, I emailed the woman the week before and said, hey, I'm not going to be there next week because my girls start kindergarten next week. And I'm going to take that week to get organized and stuff like that. And she emailed me back and she said, that's fine, that you're going to take it off. I just want to let you know that you are never going to get organized. You are never going to reach the end of your to-do list. And I remember thinking, well, that's a really negative thing to say to someone, kind of.
Right.
I thought, well, you're discouraging me right out of the box. But I have thought of her words so many times over the years. It is true. My girls just went to college this year, and I never did get fully organized and like on top of my life.
Yes. Well, isn't that weird? I do feel like I'm helping my family survive and eat and live. And that my role is a supportive role of everybody else's activity. So that's actually what my activity is.
Okay.
Is helping everybody else's activity happen.
Right.
And then somebody will ask me, oh, what'd you do today? That's the worst question. I can't remember.
I helped you live.
I helped you live. live
your best life.
Yes. And I have to remember that's the greater goal. Like I have to remember what my goals are so that I don't feel like it's trivial. Like I do feel like I am succeeding in the job that I'm committed to.
Like you said, just remembering, okay, I am doing what I want to do. I am doing what I have committed to do.
Yes.
That's a simple thing just to remind I am on task. I am doing the things I'm supposed to do.
This is important.
One thing I thought about, accepting that your to-do list will never be done, and going back to what I said earlier, that if you only schedule the task, the mundane, you'll never get to the fun stuff. You have to put that on the list. And I thought, we would never, we're encouraged to not just give the leftover time to our husbands or our kids, but we do that to ourselves. Give ourselves just, whatever's left over, I'll try to fit this in, So, maybe treat yourself a little better.
Yeah. So true. I've come to recognize that, yes, I just mentioned, I work so hard while they're all gone. When they're home, I'm exhausted because I haven't paced myself. And like so much of life is about pacing, even a marathon runner has to stop to go to the bathroom, or it's just like, it's thinking of like brief breaks to help you make it to the end.
I'm thinking too that you probably work really hard when people are gone so that you can be available when they're home. That's how I kind of feel about it. Like, I'm going to try and do all the things I can while they're gone so that when they're home, I'm free or as free as possible to do what comes up. I think that probably looks like to them, what does she do? But it's because you've already worked hard.
But Marie, what came to my mind when you said that was Mother's Day out. That was my motto, was like, I'm going to get all this stuff done because I want to be available when they're home. And I remember pickup line, I was exhausted. Was I really available when they got home?
True.
I don't know that I was, because I was so tired getting all that done. And then I just felt like I was wasted when
well, that's a good point, Julie. That's a really good point. Yeah, Mother's Day out, you feel maybe overindulgent, just taking the time for yourself, but inherent in the name is kind of like maybe mom take care of herself a little bit.
Yeah, I wish Mother's Day out had been just reading a book, and this is where I have changed. I did not do this on Mother's Day. I did all the grocery shopping, all the cleaning, all the, and I was exhausted. So it'd probably be better to really take it as a day out.
Right. Yeah. Or a day in and close the blinds and turn off the phone.
Well,
yeah, that's true.
Even an example with me having teenagers, Bryce and I were having the conversation last night. Is, we're in January right now. I'm kind of evaluating this next semester because my boys are still in school. Life is run by semesters.
Right.
Okay. So the topic came up. I had written on my to-do list, I need to talk to Bryce about if I should lead a Bible study. We need to talk about this next semester. I wanted to get his thoughts because that could be a nighttime Bible study. That could be a morning Bible study. And so as we're sitting at Nathaniel's basketball game, he said, well, what about, like Nathaniel's got basketball games almost every night of the week through February. And then he reminded me that Jacob's golf team is about to start up and there's going to be tournaments and there's going to be different things. Also, I just started working at the gym more in the mornings. He reminded me of these other things that I had forgotten, what time they actually require and take. And you know what I mean? I was like, oh yeah, Jacob's going to play golf. Well, I didn't remember that I had already committed to being a part of the hospitality team, which is a lot, and when I then looked at it, I was like, oh, I was thinking I was going to have all this time.
Right.
And I actually needed to say no to the Bible study this semester. And that's how I feel better about it, honestly, because I wanted to lead a Bible study. But I knew after talking to him that there was not enough time, mental space, more than anything, to be able to give to that in a good way. I couldn't give myself to it because of the activity that my sons are doing.
Yeah, and that's one of the things she asked in the article, like, do you need to say no more often? Because sometimes we say yes thinking we'll have more time in the future.
Yes.
And I love what she said. She said, only say yes for things that you have time for today, because you're probably not going to have more time in the future.
Yes.
So that was a really good rule.
And for me, I feel better. It's a no for this season. Like I can reevaluate this next season, you know? And so that makes me feel better. Like it doesn't all have to happen right now.
Yeah, that's a good example of the saying no. It's also a good example of crafting your time. Like, I think in order to craft your time, you need to take inventory of what you have to do. And you also have to build in margin. You have to build in, okay, well, I'm going to go watch these games, but I have to plan for the fact that I'll have to make dinner earlier that night. I'll have to drive there. I'll have to maybe go out for ice cream afterwards, you know, to celebrate. I'll have to come home. Like, it's not just 45 minutes watching a game. It impacts the 4 hours around it. And if you're not honest with yourself, you're going to overschedule and get really stressed, and you're not even going to enjoy watching the game.
Yeah, we definitely tend to minimize the time involved in an activity. On paper, it looks like a 45-minute activity.
You're so right. Yes.
Yeah. I love what she said in the crafting your time. Notice the sand traps in your day. And I thought, oh, yeah, that, like times when you're not productive. And I know the article's not focused on being productive, but just those, I think she's talking about those times where you're just idle in a way that's like scrolling or where it's actually stealing time from things you really want to do. Like at the end of a time that I've scrolled through Facebook, I thought, I don't want to do this. Like I could have done this, you know? And she suggested, you know, like trying to replace that when you recognize this is a time waster. Replace it with something fun, like, and kind of make a ritual out of that, like reading after dinner or hiking or walking.
You're so right, Julie, because I feel like that's a procrastination tactic.
The sand
that
traps
you're avoiding. Yeah, you're avoiding something or procrastinating, and then it just makes your life harder in the future.
She also talks about clearing away visual distractions. I feel like the nagging piles around my house, piles of papers, piles of returns, piles of stuff that people haven't put away yet, those all like distract me, and I can get involved in something like that instead of what I really need to be doing, or they paralyze me. Like I'm so overwhelmed by the piles that I can't get to what I really need to do. I don't know. That's what I thought of when she thought of visual distractions, was like the pile of papers that I have sitting on my kitchen counter.
Yeah, I thought about my phone. Like maybe it needs to be in another room when I'm trying to focus on something else, because I just don't have the power to not look at it when a ding goes off. Or you know, I know one time when we were homeschooling, we did a big addition on our house, and it was supposed to take 3 months and it took 9. And it happened to coincide with the school year, September to May. And we were in the house trying to do school with hammering on the roof, construction workers coming in and out. And, you know, we're kind of trying to sit in our kitchen and all these people are going in and out. And I got to the point where we would pack up our stuff and go to the Brentwood Library. And I was always amazed at how much we could get done in the quiet of the Brentwood Library. I mean, things that used to take hours and hours, we would, you know, we could get done in 2 or 3 just because there was no phone, no pets, no pantry with snacks, nobody asking questions. And so, yeah, distractions are
that's a great
big thing.
example.
Well, I love that you brought that up. And something that I wrote down that goes along with that is, in my home, I will change rooms. I'll change location for different activity. So like I'm at the kitchen counter for one activity. I'll sit at the kitchen table for another activity. I will not sit on the couch if I need to work. But I'll sit on the couch if I need to rest.
That's a sand trap, Mindy.
Yeah, that is.
Yes. So, and
I
have a couch in the living room that's near the kitchen. And then I have a couch in the piano room. It's just a library piano, no TV, no kitchen. And I go to that piano room, the library, when I need to actually focus and read and think and rest and not have the rest of the house looking at me. And so, and I will also to help with that visually, but also physically, I put tennis shoes on for certain activities in my home. When I know I need to be productive, I will take them off and put on socks if I'm doing an activity that needs to be restful. So there's even different shoes that I put on for different tasks, even if I haven't left my home.
So you kind of have cues that remind you of what you're supposed to be doing. That's a great idea.
I have a lot of those physical cues of location, shoes, clothing items, drinks. Before I go to the piano room, I go to the bathroom, I get everything I need so I don't have to leave. I've got water, if I need coffee, pen, paper, anything I'm going to need. And I go there and I don't leave.
Yeah, that's good. Because they talk about breaking your focus time into larger blocks. And so that probably helps you too. Like if you can set aside a block of time and then just get all prepared and then just really hammer it out.
Yes.
Yes.
That's the one that I was most excited about implementing and changing in my routine. Kind of going off on what I said about going to the library. I really enjoy being at home, but if I have to get a lot done, like creativity wise, not like doing dishes and laundry, but like thinking. And I'm teaching a life group at church, and then I've got the podcast to prepare for, and I've got book club, and I've got a few other things that require thinking. And lately, it just seems like it's Friday or Saturday, and I haven't prepared my lesson, haven't studied. I'm rushing to get ready for the podcast the day before, and I'll think I've had all week, and it just feels like I've been busy all week. Like I've stretched it all out over too much time. And one day before the holidays, I just woke up really early. I'm not a morning person. I got up at like 5:00, and I just sat down at the island. Nobody was up. It was quiet, and I just worked. I just worked and got my lesson done. I got the podcast done. I started reading, and by 7, I was done with it all. And I thought, oh my gosh, like this. I'm not doing too much, because I was beginning to think, what should I drop? I've got too much going on. Like I just can't do this. So this is my plan, is I think I'm going to have office hours at the Brentwood Library.
That's a great idea.
Like on Monday, I'm going to just pack up my stuff and go over there and sit for 2 hours, and I might be able to get everything done. And then when I'm home, I don't have to think about that. I can do the things I want to do. Yeah. But I just remembered how much that helped me with us homeschooling. And I thought, I need to do that, because I don't have that self-control to necessarily go in another room. And, like I just sit in the middle of the house and try to fight it all.
Have John lock the door behind you.
Yes.
Don't let me out for 2 hours.
I'll take a fun drink with me if I'm not looking forward to it.
Yeah. Okay.
Seriously, I'm like, I got to have something that I enjoy about this situation.
But it's true, when you're distracted and you go and do this and then go do that, it takes you a few minutes to get restarted again and to focus. Right. And so the bigger chunks of time really, really helps.
Well, and you're also doing the next one that she suggests, Julie, which is schedule around your worst impulses. You know what your worst impulses are, and you know that by going to the Brentwood Library, you can avoid your worst impulses.
Yes,
that's true.
And like you said before, maybe you should put your phone in another room, because your worst impulse, in quotes, is that if it dings, you're going to look. Like we all know our downfalls. Like Mindy knows that if she doesn't bring her fun drink, she's going to be sitting there thinking about, I don't have anything to drink.
And she'll get up.
This.
Yeah. I know that I need to make things earlier in the day. Yes. If it's something that's later in the day, it's probably not going to get done. My worst impulses, in quotes, are to fall off as the day goes on. So I just do better in the morning. So if you really want me to accomplish something, let me know in the morning. Don't let me know at 6:00 at night. I'm not going to be happy to find out that I have to do something at 6:00 at night that I'd already thought I was done for the day.
So true, Marie. So true. Every night I want to be like, I'm off work now.
I know.
Well, people used to make fun of me, but when my kids were little, I made dinner during morning nap, just because I knew people would call me, "What are you doing?" "I'm cooking dinner." And they're like, "What?" But I knew that if I waited till 4, There's a good chance we were just going out to eat.
Okay. And that's a great example, Julie, of scheduling around your worst impulses. We all know where we trip and fall. Even for exercise, like, some of us know that if we haven't done it by 10 o'clock, the chance of us doing it is going down dramatically. That's how it is for me. Or if I haven't at least scheduled a walk with someone by then.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, she talks about her last one is eat the marshmallow today. And this comes from a study that they did with kids where, and I'm just going to paraphrase that. I think they could ask a kid, do you want this marshmallow? But if you don't eat it, you can have 2 tomorrow. And some kids would forego the 1 marshmallow in the hopes of getting 2. And some kids were kind of like, nah, I'll take the guaranteed 1. And so I just thought it was funny because she said that, are you persistently sacrificing your pleasure today for some unknown future in which you'll probably turn down the marshmallow again? And that is so true. For all of us, it's a good reminder. Like, we might say, oh, well, I'm going to power through because then I'll play later. But a lot of us get into that powering through mentality, and then we don't play later. We keep pushing it off.
Yeah, that's where I fail in the suffer for 15 minutes a day. I start and I get in this groove. And then I work for 3 hours. Then I'm still exhausted. And I'm, like when I took my Christmas stuff down, I stayed up till 2 a.m. I was just gonna do, 30 minutes of like pulling some things off and setting it on the dining room table, and I'll deal with it tomorrow. Well, then I just kind of got a second wind, and I was like, oh, I can get this done, and stayed up till 2. So that is the worst impulse too. Just powering through and then not sticking to my plan.
This is this is a minefield when you're looking at weight loss, when you're looking at a healthy lifestyle, that there's so many, there's eating disorders, there's weight loss strategies all out there designed with this mentality. And when you start looking at human behavior and longevity, and were you able to sustain that weight loss strategy? It's all in did you give yourself the reward that you promised yourself when you hit that goal? Or, you know what I mean? And another example that I thought of is, Julie, you mentioned your I'm a Fan one week was 13 Lives, that movie of the Thailand boys soccer team. And it was a very pivotal moment in the movie for me to see that one of the divers that was part of the rescue team, they weren't finished rescuing the boys, but they had to rest. They physically could not continue to rescue every person. First of all, our bodies are not built that way. God designed our bodies for rest and work. And there's sleep. It needs sleep. It needs food. It needs water. And so seeing that movie and seeing that visually where he had to rest, he couldn't actually sleep because his mind, he's so concerned about the boys. But that just meant a lot to me to see that lived out on the screen. I was like, okay, like there's boys' lives at stake and he has to stop so that he can be good enough to save them tomorrow.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah. Last week, my daughters are home from college. One was on a retreat and the other one was home. And she had wanted to go skiing over break just at a place that's about 5 hours from here. And I couldn't even think about whether we would go skiing until after Christmas was over. And then I was like, oh, but I really just want to sit and relax and enjoy this week between Christmas and New Year's. I really want to drive 5 hours, stay in a hotel. You know how I hate staying in hotels and just all that. And I thought, oh, you know what, Steve, he's not, even though he's technically off, he's still working. He's probably going to be like, oh, no, I got to stop what I'm doing and I'm going to get behind. And I thought, oh, there's probably a better time. And then I got to thinking, there's really not a better time. Like he's going to go back to work next week. They'll go back to college. All right, rally. So we did plan. She was off Wednesday and Thursday and we did go. And I was so glad we did because I could have said, I'll wait for Steve to have a lesser work schedule or more free time. That is literally never going to happen. I could have said, I'll only go after I feel totally rested after Christmas. Again, it's the first week of January and I'm still like, oh, Christmas really wore me out. Like there's just always some excuse that you can give yourself to not eat the marshmallow. I mean, sometimes I'm good about it, but in particular, like trips or spontaneous things that take me out of my comfort zone, I'm not good about it. And so I was really glad that we went skiing. We had a good time. And was all the stuff still there when I got back? Yes, all the Christmas decorations were still there. The big pile of gifts that need to be returned. The big piles that I had, I was still tired, but I was so glad that we had gone.
Great example of that.
Yeah.
So I guess, eat more marshmallows.
And are we going to talk about ways that we eat the marshmallow every day?
Sure. Yeah. Tell us.
That was a question. I loved it. I actually had a lot of fun.
Okay. How do you eat the marshmallow? I don't know that I even saw that question. I didn't see that one.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
It was at the very end of what you sent.
I want to hear how you eat the marshmallow every day, Mindy.
Oh, shoot. I'm like, I got a whole list.
Okay. Bring it.
It may provoke some thought. Okay.
Yeah.
So I was trying to think about, well, how do I eat marshmallows every day? What are things that I consider marshmallows? And I've got a little list here. Taking a nap. That's first.
Okay.
Walking or sitting outside with no goal in mind, like no purpose. I'm not trying to exercise. I'm just going to go for a walk. Sometimes making another cup of coffee, even if I don't drink it, there's something about that sparks joy. This was a big one for me, driving places that I don't have to go. Like if I want to go through a neighborhood to look at landscaping or house design or drive through the country. I feel like so often we get in the car just to do what we have to do. But it is so restful and peaceful to actually drive with no purpose.
Or take a different route home. Take the longer route home that's more scenic. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, we've all made fun of Sunday drivers, because that's what it was. I love to be a Sunday driver.
I hope I'm not behind you, Mindy.
I know. And typically I'm like, get out of the way. But the other two just short things is if I get my car washed, it's only because I've had space in my schedule, because that's more of a time thing than a function thing for me. It's like, oh, I had time to get my car washed. Or calling a friend on the phone. A phone call, because I don't typically like being on the phone, but if I actually call someone on the phone, there's space and margin for a relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, those are great examples of marshmallows. Yeah. And I think it's a good exercise to kind of look at what do you do in your daily life that would be considered a marshmallow. Can you think of anything off the top of your head, Julie?
Yeah, I guess a marshmallow that was a random one the other night. We were driving somewhere at night and John goes, let's turn down here and look at Christmas lights. And I was like, it's January the 4th.
Yes.
Why are we doing this? And I thought, you know what? I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
So we did our Christmas light looking on January the 4th, just the two of us. There were no arguments over the music or who had to ride in the back seat. And I thought it was nice, so.
Well, and you could actually enjoy it because it wasn't an activity to check off before Christmas.
Right. It was just when we had the time.
Yeah. No, I love that. Okay. Well, listeners, we would love to hear from you. We would love to hear about your marshmallows. We'd love to hear about your downfalls. We'd love to hear about how you want to be less busy. You can come and find us at Midlife Matters Podcast on Instagram, or you can email us at midlifematterspodcast@gmail.com. But before we go, let's move into I'm a Fan. All right, Julie, this is our first I'm a Fan of 2023. What do you have for us?
Okay, I'm a fan of something I got as a Christmas present, and I think I was the only one in the family that didn't have these. So, John, I didn't ask for these, but John bought me these for Christmas, and I really do like them. It's not anything that I would buy for myself, and I think that's why he got them for me. They are the Bose Quiet Comfort Bluetooth wireless noise canceling headphones.
Ooh, those sound good.
So I think I'm going to start wearing them on the podcast because they're really comfortable and And I love the noise canceling thing, which is great because on an airplane, I can never listen to anything because it's too loud. The noise.
Does it actually cancel the noise, Julie?
Yeah, because there's like a frequency that it emits that will cancel out other noises. Not like a loud boom, but something that's constant, like on an airplane or.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And so it would be great for on the lawnmower because I always want to listen to a podcast when I'm cutting the grass, but I can't because it's too loud.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's a great idea. I love that.
And I've just started wearing them around the house, to listen to things. And
yeah.
Because it's just great sound. It really is good.
That sounds really good. All right, Mindy, what are you a fan of this week?
I'm a fan of a clothing brand at Dick's Sporting Goods. It's the DSG brand, which stands for Dick's Sporting Goods.
Yes, I have some of that.
I have loved it. I have found a lot of workout clothes and sports bras that a lot of times you go in and it's buy one, get one free, buy one, get one half off. They are not expensive. I've had them for probably at least 6 months, a lot of the things that I'm talking about. And so I just really love that brand. And I say that because a lot of people like to add in more exercise come January.
Sure.
So this is a great kind of go-to athletic brand that I do love that will not break the bank.
Yeah, I've actually bought those for myself and my girls before, and they really do hold up well.
That's good to know because I always think of them as kind of a pricey store. So it's just that brand that's their own brand?
Their own brand is actually very good.
Yeah.
And it will look a lot like, the store is set up, I call it expensive to cheaper.
Yeah.
So you walk past the Nike, Under Armour, Kalia, and then you get to the DSG brand.
Walk to the back. Okay. All right. I'm a fan of something we started watching over Christmas break, and I'm late to it because I really think you may have recommended this before, Julie. But I always thought The Chosen would be too cheesy. I did not want to watch it, but I've had some people in my life that have brought it up multiple times. You have to watch it. You would enjoy it. And also I used to say, well, it's kind of a pain because don't you have to cast it from your phone and get an app? Well, now it's right on Amazon Prime. So my excuses had pretty much gone out the window. And we started watching it and it's actually really good. So if you are like me and have thought, it's just going to be too cheesy, it really isn't. So I've really enjoyed it and I highly recommend it.
Well, that's good to know because I'd never finished it because it is such a pain to watch on the app. So I didn't even know it was on Amazon.
It's on Amazon Prime now. Okay. So very easy, just like any other Amazon Prime show.
I love that, Marie. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. All right, Julie, Mindy, well, thanks for talking with me about being less busy. I'd kind of like to maybe revisit this later in the year and see if we're doing any better. Hold each other accountable.
Definitely food for thought.
Yeah.
And I feel like we even uncovered some other topics maybe we can delve into in the future.
Yes. All right, we'll talk to you guys next week.
All right.
Great. Bye, guys.
Bye.
We're so happy you joined us today. You can find the show notes for this episode at midlifematterspodcast.com. Also, please tell a friend about the show and help them hit the free subscribe button on their favorite podcast app. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at Midlife Matters Podcast. That's where we post pictures and stories about all the things we talk about in each episode. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.